Okay. Well, welcome to Watercolor Studio 42. I've been lately doing a lot of sort of relative to fall scenes, a little bit of Halloween pictures, kind of spooky pictures and all that. But today I'm going to be working on something a little bit into the fall season because I'm going to be doing some vegetables here, pumpkins and looks like some squash and maybe some corn and whatnot, maybe apples. So we'll see what we can kind of fit into this still life. By the way, this is one I did a while back. Worked on it a little bit more. When you take a photograph, a lot of times you don't get too much color, and this happened to be one. So it's a sort of a brownish tone here that we have predominantly. It's not exactly monochromatic one color, but it's relatively mostly a brownish color. And I use sepia for that. But that's the way the photograph was too. So what happened when it dried out, it got a lot lighter. So I thought I'd bring it in anyways, just show you what it looked like. I touched it up a little bit. This was up at Arnold's Mill, where they used to have I guess a waterfall to run the wheels, the mill. Very common use of waterfalls, hydropower, if you will, to do things. Now, I got a little bit of a head start today. I'm working on a kind of a composite between the pumpkins and maybe some jarred food here in the background. A lot of times people used to preserve food for the winter. I guess they still do if you have a garden and so forth. And so I know my mother used to do a lot of pickles and things like that, beets and whatnot. Okay, so I'm started off here with a very quick sketch. I always work very quickly with a pencil and do it kind of light. And then what I do is I do the background, pretty much the background, get some color on the paper. And then I start right in with the subject. In this case, it's some pumpkins and apples and whatnot. So we could see what we can do. I let the colors kind of sometimes run together. It's sort of a loose wash. That's what they call it when you just wet the paper, you know, reactivate the paper. Whatnot. Now, I'm going to put in some pumpkins here, and I'm going to put a big, oops, well, I'll just outline it. I know a pumpkin's going to be in there. We'll put another one off here in the background. I'm doing them light at first, just to kind of sketch it out, do the composition. I've done a lot of these before, as far as still lifes go. I don't often do vegetables. I do a lot of flowers, things of that sort, all garden things. But this is supposed to be some homemade bread in there. So I'm just going to leave the white showing through here and try to get some of the color of the crust, the outside crust of the loaf of bread. There is some Indian corn. It kind of has colored kernels and so forth, but I don't know if I'm going to put that in because it takes a little longer. And I want to finish up on time. Maybe a little ahead of time, I don't know, hopefully. But I'm just dropping in the placement of some of these objects. We're going to have a pumpkin here and another one in back here. I started kind of light, but I'm going to build up the pigment color. in here. It's about this size, something like that. Okay. Now, what I do a lot of times where I want the colors to be a little bit heavier, I don't put so much water on the brush. I just kind of use the paint straight from the pan so I get a nice darker shade, darker color. Then over on this one, we'll put some color into that. And then I usually put some shadow underneath too to kind of make it pop out a little bit. Pumpkin in here. The other one's over and back here. Now apples can be, depending on the type of apple, you can have granny apples that are green, or you can have multicolors. You're safe to start with a little bit of red. A little bit of red, that won't hurt. Sometimes I start with green. You can use green, but I'm going to put some red out. We just don't need too much of that. We're going to put sort of a red apple in here somewhere. They're not actually a real smooth shape. They kind of bulge out a little bit. We'll put one over there. And I think I'm going to put one up in here somewhere. We can squeeze something in up in there. Put an apple in here. And then we're going to put a third something. I like to do 3 of something. And I'll put another apple down in this corner. Again, they have sort of a little bit of a curvy shape around the top. A little bit on the bottom too. They're not exactly perfectly round. Okay. Now, if you want to put a highlight on anything while it's wet, sometimes you can use your brush. And if you want to put some light, have a light area on anything, you just can come in with your brush and lift some of the paint out. Usually apples can be nice and shiny, especially if you polish them, right? And the pumpkin's going to have a little bit of highlight on one side. You can lift that out also. Just a little bit of coloring here. Okay, right in here is the loaf of bread. That's sort of a little bit of a beige color. I don't know if I get a beige color around here or not. Yeah, well, we'll use a little bit of some brown up here. We'll just make a loaf of bread. That's right about in here. You can see one end open. And the bread sits down in the foreground in there. Let's clean that up a little bit. Okay, the bread's in here. And what else do you want to add to the composition here? See what we got. We can always put in leaves for decoration. So I'm just going to take just a little bit more of my green that I have and just kind of put a little bit of that kind of around the base, you know, in through here. Go right to the corner. Kind of leave some of that in there. And usually if I do one corner, I do the opposite corner so I can bring this out a little bit more. Make that look like something back there. I was thinking of putting some jars in there too. I suppose I could. We'll see what happens. I got a space down here that I can fill in. How about putting one of those, what do you call those, summer squash or something like that. Put one of those in here. Wait a minute, I don't like that color. That could be one of those gourds, Well, how about putting something like that in there? It's too much the same as that, though. However, let's blot it out a bit. See if I can put some more color on top of that. We'll have to change the color a little bit. We don't want two colors touching each other. It's too much the same. That's what am I thinking? Not a summer squash, but butternut. That's what it is, a butternut squash. We'll put a butternut squash, has a little bit of a neck that goes out in here. We'll wrap that around in there. Yeah, I'm thinking of a butternut squash. And I always have, I like butternut squash, broccoli. Goes good with my salmon. I'm a kind of more of a fish person than I am a red meat person. I know Thanksgiving you have a lot of turkey, but I like chicken myself. But I'm not the cook, so I don't have too much to say about it. I am the cleanup guy. Very important. You got to have somebody to clean up after. Pots and pans and all that. I don't know if that's a butternut squash, but we'll see what we can do with it anyways. Maybe it has to have a little bit more yellow to it. Let's try a little bit of yellow in it. I don't know if that's going to help. Yeah, you can mix one color on top of the others with watercolor. Blend it right in, and as long as it's still moist, you can easily mix the color right on the paper. Okay, something like that. Not the best location for that, but maybe we can have something else coming in from the outside. Where's the green again? Here we go. We'll just put something over in the corner. Decorate the corners a little bit with some leafy things. Okay. We'll come around the corner here. Outline the butternut squash a bit. And just go right to the edge of the paper. See what else. Could be corn stalks too. The only trouble with corn stalk, they do dry out, so they lose a lot of the green. And whatnot. Okay, so now we're getting some color there. Let's see if I don't know if I'm going to do a jar. We'll outline something. I don't like to do it while it's too wet, but we'll take a chance with it. Sort of like some jars. Put those kind of in the background. They could be different colors. Want a pickle jar, do that one green. Wow. I still had some dark color on my brush. Not so much green. Yeah, we just drop something like that in it, 3 of something. Try to make that look like a cap. I don't know if it's going to look like a cap or not. Sometimes they have a jar cover. How about making that into a jar cover? Okay, there's that. Okay. Now it's just a matter now of how much detail you want to work into the picture. Of course, you got the foundation here. I think this could have a little bit more yellow to it. Not yellow, maybe some brown in there. And I'll outline it a little bit. And butternut squash. Just kind of perk it up a little bit. A little knob on the end. Now, I'm just going to drop, I got to separate some things here. So what I do a lot of times, I just put little wedges in there, in between, around the shapes. You know, maybe it could be like a shadow. And you could see it in the photographs a little bit, how there's some dark wedges around the vegetables. Let's see what we can, drop, excuse me. We can drop a wedge right in here. One here. You don't have to make a solid color sometimes, just make a little dark outline around it. You want to put another wedge there, we can do that. What else? It doesn't always have to be a dark, well, it can be, but you don't have to be. Let's make this look like a jar cover. A canning jar. I used to remember the name of the company that put out all these jars. We haven't canned too much in years. It's kind of a little bit something in the past. Okay. Now, I guess we could go a little darker with a wedge in here. Just put a little wedge and just pull that back to the edge of the paper. Outline a little bit of the shape in there. Exaggerate the shape a little bit. See how that brings out the pumpkin. Now, what else? Oh, let's do around the top. Let's do a little bit around the top. Now, if a lot of times, if you're doing anything like a little sketch or something, I usually use a larger brush, or just use a smaller piece of paper. You just outline this a little bit more and put some dark around it. Break it up, break up that background a little bit more. Let's see what else. So using the green, we can come in here, leave a little bit of highlight in back here. A lot of times I leave some of the base color showing through. Let some of that lighter color come through. Paint the green on top of that, but let that color come through. Now, as far as the bottom goes, I can go quite a bit darker there around the bottom. And I just go out to the edge. Now, a lot of artists, they paint this way. They just stick with a big brush. And it's okay if you want to finish up in a hurry, that's one way to do it. Just outline things. Make them stand out a bit. Put wedges. Where you see a wedge, you put a wedge. Follow around a little bit around the contour. You can clean up the contour a little bit. You come around, you want to change the shape, just pull it back, like something like that. You want to kind of outline the apple a little bit more, you can. Now you could drop a little wedge in here too. Now the wedge doesn't have to be exactly the same shade. You can make the wedge a little bit darker here and there. Let's see, what do I have over here? Oh, that's a loaf of bread. And this is supposed to be part of a butternut squash. I almost said summer squash, butternut squash. That's in here. You can put some of the lines, in the bread. kind of coming to bring it around. So it looks like it's a slice of bread, I guess. We'll call it that anyway, huh? For now. How about a wedge in there? A wedge coming around here. Another one over on this side. See how it brings up the apple? Boom, boom, boom. Now, like I was mentioning earlier, a lot of artists paint this way. They don't spend a lot of time being too fussy. And then there's artists that are extremely fussy how they paint. And when you take a picture of their artwork, you can't always tell whether it's a painting or a photograph, because they do it so detailed. My gosh, they put in everything. And I admire what they do. I've always said that. Their craftsmanship is fantastic. But I don't know, personally, I don't know if I'd have that much patience with painting that way. I'm kind of tend to be more spontaneous if I can be when I paint. Okay, you can put that a little bit further up in there, around here. Now, a pumpkin does have sort of like some shapes in it. Think of it like a basketball. You know, it has the seams in it. It has some little seams here. Again, you don't have to go all the way down. Just suggest a few. And a little bit on this one. You know, something like that. The apples may have, oh gosh, you can put a little, let's try a little bit of yellow. I see a little bit of yellow on some of them. Some of them have some yellow. And then, of course, the apple around the top where the stem comes out just has a little bit of a shade to it. It's a little bit shady. It has like a little hollow in there. So I don't know if I can show it with one swipe of the brush, but it's just a little hollow in there. There you go. Something like that. What makes it more like an apple is when you take maybe a little brush and you just add a stem. Take a brush and let's color. I guess we can use any darker color and put some stems in. How's that? One there. Maybe one going this way. Another one going that way. Put some stems on the apple. Now, these aren't the greatest shapes of apples in the world, but nevertheless. Okay. Now you can spend as much time as you want putting color back in. I'm just I got plenty of orange up here. I can make this much brighter on this one. Yeah, let's put more color back in there. On this one, yep. Right down in through here has a lot of color. And you can even suggest an extra seam or two on that one. And I think we could perk up, soften the edges here. Work around that. And we could add a little bit more zap to the apples. I hope this is a darker. I have two rose colors. Not rose colors, but one's a brighter red, and the other one's like it has more blue to it. Rose color, you know. I'm just going to put something in that one. A little color back in there. Now, I'm going to just kind of pull that color, soften that around there a little bit on each one of these. I don't know if that does much for it or not. It sort of brings it out Wow. So, like I said, if you stick with a large brush, you can get a lot done in a hurry. Okay, let's see where we're at. This is kind of vague back here, what's happening. That could be a pepper. That could be a pepper in here. Put a little stem on that. Hey, peppers have like a green stem, don't they? A little bit of a green stem, like that. Okay. There you go. Now, the only thing I do sometimes is I just do a little texturing. Make sure I got the edges filled in. Fill it in. Fill it in over here. That gives you an idea how that works. And what I've done here, I make it look like the same person did the painting. So we can put a little bit of coloring up in the painting up in here. Do something else. Just to lock it in. Yeah. Okay. Corners. Go right to the edge. Work it into the corners and whatnot. I don't know if that looks like bread back there, but it's supposed to be. Homemade bread. You know, another thing I like, of course, is I like apple pies and pumpkin pies. And I like, as far as bread goes, I like zucchini. I don't know if you ever tried zucchini bread, but that's very good too. My wife's a good cook. I'll give her a plug. She does a very good job with the cooking. I am not, I wish I was better at cooking, but I can get by. I can cook and read the directions on heating something up and how to mix it, I guess. But I'm not really that good a cook. And I probably should have taken some sort of a course, culinary arts course somewhere. Because you know, it is handy if you can cook. It comes in very handy. Well, pretty much use one brush for the whole painting. Whatnot. Now you can look at the picture. You can kind of work around. You might want to clean it up, you know, here or there and whatnot. But a lot of times, the artist just, it is what it is. I have a friend that says that all the time. It is what it is. And it is what it is. You know, leave room for your signature somewhere. I don't know if I need to do a little bit up in there. Supposed to be bread, loaf of bread. And you certainly could add other little things here and there if you want. Put some grapes or whatever into the picture. But that just gives you an idea how you could work that. I'm going to take this is a false mat. You just put tape around, the width of the tape around the inside edge, And just when you remove the tape, it just cleans your picture up. It looks like it's got a mat around it. Okay. Now you can slow down a little bit. You don't have to work as fast as I was just kind of putting it in a hurry with a big brush. But you can, there's other ways to approach the picture that give you an idea. Now, if you want to put something else in, if you want, like that's what kind of funny over there. What I do sometimes is just take the brush, pinch it out, and just go over that area, wet it, wet this down, and take a paper towel and blot it. Now you're not going to get it back as light as the color of the paper, but you might get it back light enough to put another color on top of that. So that's the way that works out. Same way on the summer, I keep saying summer, that's a yellow squash, but this butternut squash, you can take, if you want to lighten that up, the outer skin is kind of tough. I can tell you all about squashes because I'm the one that helps peel them a lot of times. Some of these squashes are tough to cut into and try to peel. So you see how you can highlight something if you want to by just lifting that. You can lift the color out. I don't know if it makes it look any better or worse, but you could do something else with that. You could put another vegetable. I didn't even put carrots or anything in there, but you could. It could be a cornstalk and whatnot. And now, let's say, for example, you get some paint on there, on the mat. That happens sometimes. So what I do is I take a brush, and I've got some somewhere in the bag. I thought I had one with me. Maybe oh yeah, I have a large tube. And I just take some of that and put a little paint on top of the spot. Just put a little bit of white on there. Make sure you got a real clean brush. No paint on the brush. This water is not the cleanest in the world, but probably will work. And what you're going to do here, you're going to take that paint, you're going to touch up that spot. I put a little bit too much paint on there, but you know, you can see how you can spread it. I just spread it around, thin it down. And if you put this inside of a frame, just have to make sure the paint's dry, obviously. And usually you don't even notice it. You don't even notice it. Unless somebody points it out. Oh, you can see where he touched up the mat a little bit. Even straighten that out across there. Sometimes you can come in. This is if you want to. If you want to cut into the mat, you could take the white paint and you can just put some white into it. You have to make sure the color is dry before you go over it. But see how you can cut into the mat. So if you got some little mistake you want to hide around the edges, you just cut into the mat. But just make sure it's dry, because what's happening is when you do this, you're picking up the color on your brush and redistributing it into the white, so the white doesn't look as white anymore. But you could do things, anytime you want to put white back into your painting, like if you want to make like a window, they call it a window, you could just take your white and just put a little, highlight on your vegetables. Just whiten it up here and there. Now on the loaf of bread, what I would do is come back, if you don't want that to be quite as dark, you just go over it with white and just lighten up the color a little bit. And where you want one end of the bread to look like it's open, instead of the, what do you call that, the end of a bread, the heel or something? I don't know. You can hit that area with white and make it look like it's the white of the bread. You want to cut into anything? You want to lighten something up, you can do that. A lot of times when you paint, artists will purposely go out of their way to leave a little bit of highlight in your painting. You see, put some white back into it. So, I mean, just whatever it might be, you could just put some white back into it. If you want to kind of outline something, like separate this here, just give a little white in there. You have to be careful though, when you do this, you don't overdo it. But you see, distributing some white in there kind of perks up your picture a little bit more. Now I did this sort of in a hurry. This was a little bit in a hurry, but you could slow down and you can do the drawing a little bit slower. You can slow down and spend more time painting it in. You could take more time selecting maybe the colors that mixing the colors that you want to use, and so forth. But this is a style that a lot of artists have, and it's very spontaneous. It's something you can do very quickly. You know, no problems at all. This could almost look like a lettuce out here. See, all I have to do is put some highlight in the green and break it up so it's not really a solid color. And you could make it look like some sort of a lettuce in there, like a salad lettuce that you might use. And that may help. So there's different things you can do with your painting. But a lot of times the watercolors go out of their way to leave some of the white. They leave the white in there, highlight, and so forth, so that it doesn't look too solid. It kind of breaks it up. And you can outline things. You want to clean up an outline, just hit it with a little bit of white around the edges, and just clean it up a little bit. Okay? So, sort of a quickie today, but nevertheless. Sometimes you can work a little bit more spontaneous, and the end results might be even better. This could be a little bit darker in there. You just go over that a little bit more. Okay. As far as the composition goes, you can think about it and plan it a little bit ahead of time. The way the photograph is, everything's kind of moving diagonal across. Mine does to some extent. The diagonal just gives everything more movement, you know. It's like a moving line. It takes you up into the picture. It's like a Z shape or an S shape, number 2 shape. Okay, so this one here, working with the photograph, it kind of jumps around a little bit, but for the most part, it's moving in a circle direction. Okay, it kind of moves around. So my jaw's got a little bit hidden back there, but that's okay. So anyways, that's it. Sign it, sell it, and away you go, right? So you can see there's a little bit of a different style. This is what I normally might do. Like I said, I'm not overly happy with the end result on that one. It needs some more fussy work. But when I looked at it the next morning, it had no contrast at all. The trees didn't show up. So I knew I had to make the trees a little bit lighter and whatnot. Otherwise, it looked like it was kind of somebody spilled paint on it and it didn't look so good. Okay? So anyhow, thanks for being with us. And let's see, we're getting into pretty soon Thanksgiving and winter. I'm not crazy about winter. I used to be when I was a kid, but not now. A little bit too much on the cold side. But when you get into winter, you can get into a lot of beautiful winter scenes, paintings that way. So that's another subject that we can consider working with. All right. So thanks for being with us, and I'm just going to say brushes up, and we'll see you folks next time. Take care.